What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and we have yet another Film Red batch on the way. And as we did predict, a brand new Shanks character is coming to the game. However, I am a little bit disappointed in terms of the character that they decided to use for Shanks. This Shanks is like the pre-time skip Shanks. This is Shanks before he even lost his arm, before he gave the hat to Luffy's, man. This is Shanks from an apparent flashback in the film, so it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. And interestingly enough, we have two legends, right? Shanks is confirmed to be a Super Sugo Fest exclusive. Then we've got Lucky Roux and Beckman. They are a generic legend, so you'll be able to pull Lucky Roux and Beckman in red tickets and stuff moving forward. Shanks is only on Super Sugo Fest, right? But this is interesting because I was really hoping to see Giga Chad Shanks. I want to see current day Shanks, and he's not here yet. So that leads me to believe that there is going to be another Shanks come out in the future. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense considering this Shanks is already Super Sugo Fest, so they're going to have another Shanks come out be a Super Sugo Fest. I don't understand what's going on. It is a bit bizarre. I don't like the fact they decided to go with this Shanks, but when you read through his abilities, it makes sense why he's a Super Sugo Fest exclusive. He has some very unique stuff going on, and we'll get through all of that. So this batch is interesting. It's all quick, mono quick batch, which is really weird considering we had the previous batch which was mono int with Uta, Chopper, and the gang. This batch with Shanks and all the other characters are all quick. And according to the Twitter account, there is going to be a third part of the Sugo Fest come out at a later point. And I would assume that it's probably going to be, my guess is mono strength. That's what I think it's going to be. We'll have to wait and see what it actually is. But we can see here that we get a free multi-pull. This is coming out on August 27th, 1900 PST time. That is when part 1 will debut. And we'll go through all the other parts in just a second. But we do get a free multi-pull. And if this is anything like the Uta part of the Sugo Fest, usually the red rates are actually pretty good on this free multi. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's awesome. Free multi. Everyone loves that. There's 3 parts to this Sugo Fest. So remember that the Uta Sugo Fest was titled the Prelude Sugo Fest. This one right here is titled the Climax Sugo Fest, and we do know, according to the Twitter account, that there is going to be a third part of the Sugo Fest, whether it be resolution, conclusion, something along those lines. Right, with this Sugo Fest Part 1, as we said, debuting August 27th. Part 2, debuting August 29th, so 2 days later. And then we've got Part 3, August 31st, 2 days later once again. So, you know, if you really want to get one of those certain parts, we have to look here. What's actually here on Part 2? You got the Luffy and the Roger Whitebeard, then you got Yamato, Ace, and Kaido. Interesting stuff. Alright, let's go ahead and go through the Sugo Fest steps first. So, if you guys remember the very first Uta Sugo Fest, it's essentially the same steps on all 3 parts, just depending on what part you want to pull on, boosted units, etc. So you've got a pretty good looking steps, you know, guaranteed legends on every part. It should be 15% chance to get a red. Likely part 1 has all of the legends available, and certain characters will be rate boosted, of course. And then, of course, if you go to the 30th multi on part 1, you get a limited pool, Super Sugo Fest only character, so you're not guaranteed to get either one of the 2 debuting characters on the 30th multi, which is a huge problem. I don't like that they do that, but there are really good steps along the way. 50% chance for a red on the 25th, a guaranteed Super Sugo on the 20th, anything else crazy along the way, a rate boosted legend on the 15th, and, you know, pretty typical stuff there. You've got part 2, which is where it kind of restricts it to only getting very specific units, and of course if you go to the 30th multi on part 2, you get the guaranteed Super Sugo Fest only Shanks, and then on part 3 you get the guaranteed Sugo Fest exclusive Beckman and Lucky Roux. So once again, just confirms it that Beckman and Lucky Roux, they're not Super Sugo Fest units, whereas the Shanks is going to be one. So I guess everyone is really wondering, what do these characters actually do? Well, let's go ahead and break that down, because these characters, they're interesting. Let's start things off with Sunny-kun, who is one of the rare recruits of the batch. First thing that I noticed when I opened this character up is the potential abilities, one of which being Shipbind, the other one being Fear Resistance. Pretty weird choices there, but Fear Resistance on this unit is a huge thumbs up from me, but Shipbind doesn't really make a lot of sense when you have a look at the abilities. This unit is a Free Spirit Cerebral and is also quick. Captain ability doesn't really matter. 14 turn cooldown, so a little bit high for my liking, but it does reduce special charge time by 2 turns, and also changes all slots including block into matching and completely removes the crew's Shipbind ability. And this is what I was saying. It doesn't make sense that but Sunny Kun's ability, you know, removes shipbind completely, but then has the potential ability to remove it. So I guess if there's content that has maybe one stage where you're inflicted with like 5 or less turns of it, and then it gets applied again on another stage, that's the only situation in which that would make sense. But it's just very, very weird. Now, luckily, this character does have special reverse resistance, so resist 2 turns of special reverse. The actual special ability reduces cooldown by 2 for the crew. Amazing. And the fact that this character reduces cooldown by 2, resists 2 of it, has fear resistance, automatically this character is going to be valuable, because not only do you get around the special reverse, but a full board of slots as well. Not much else you could really ask for. It's a very basic special, but it's very good. Unfortunately, this character doesn't really have a good support effect, 9% recovery. And then in PvP, a lot of the rare recruits are pretty bad these days, just the generic ones. Free Spirit Shooter recovery up and HP up. And it is weird that this character is boosting Free Spirit and Shooter, considering it's a Free Spirit Cerebral character. I don't understand that at all. But when you have a look at some of the other characters, you understand why, you know, we have, shooter buffs here. But anyways, the special ability, 24 CT, medium range, attack, defense up, and then Free Spirit and Shooter characters get speed and crit up. So it's just a supporting unit, not very good in Pirate Rumble, really. But at least the unit as a whole is very unique in what it does and seems pretty decent. The second rare recruit here is going to be Bruno and Kobe. Look at my man Bruno, all dressed up in the green tracksuit with the flower in his hair. Absolute Giga Chad. So, Bruno and Kobe, quick, fighter cerebral, captain ability, doesn't matter. The special ability reduces bind and chain down by 5 turns, and also reduces resilience by 5 turns, and then 85% damage reduction for 1 turn, and for 1 turn, boost the attack of quick units by 2.25. So it's not a broken special ability, but it's just okay. The thing about it is like removing chain effects isn't always valuable, considering chain lock can kind of get around that. But if you're having units that are focused on chain boosting mechanics, then yes, you want to remove the decreased chain multiply growth rate down effect. They also reduce resilience, which we've seen in a lot of instances isn't that useful. A lot of the times you can just, use end of turn damage or poison or anything to get around resilience, but 5-turn resilience is a bit weird. 85% damage reduction is pretty neat, and then an attack boost. Like, they just seem okay. They also give base attack boost to the top row, which is also kind of weird. They do have barrier penetration. Barrier penetration, be very noteworthy of that. There is some crazy stuff coming up when we talk about these legends. Then we've got the support effect. For quick units, just some base stats. Their Pirate Rumble ability, if I can actually click on the right thing, is also kind of mid. Fighter, shooter, recovery, and attack up. Do note, fighter, shooter buffs, but this unit is fighter cerebral. Weird. And then also, their special's interesting. 31 CT, target 1 enemy for 1.5 attack, and then target 1 enemy for 40% HP reduction. That's pretty weird for a rare recruit to have such a powerful special, but it is 31 CT, it is a generic rare recruit, so not too many people are probably going to opt to put this character on their crew for Pirate Rumble. But I guess if you are wanting to build a quick team and you don't have the really good units to help you out, I guess it could maybe work, but it's not the best special ever. But overall, Kobe and Bruno just seem kind of average. It's not a very amazing rare recruit. Definitely a little bit of a letdown. We have one more rare recruit to talk about, which is going to be Gordon. Now, Gordon is one of the characters from Film Red itself, so if you guys have no idea who this character is, don't worry, he is in the film, and he's a big part of that film, so don't be too worried about who this character is right now. But his captain ability is actually like a little bit better than some of the other rare recruits that we've seen. It's not too bad. But then his special ability too reduces special bind, paralysis, and despair by 5 turns, and if you have a quick or int captain, boost quick and int base attack by 800 for 1 turn. This is a great special ability, great utility, and has the option for base attack boost. Not really too much to complain about there. Also has barrier penetration, keep that in mind, and then also resists the special bind, which is good. Doesn't have a third potential ability, so we could see a limit break expansion in the future. Applying fear resistance would be very good. Also boosting some base stats for quick and int, which is nothing amazing. And interestingly enough, he actually has a usable support, I would say, only attaching to Uta, and it says if you're inflicted with paralysis, you give yourself a matching slot and reduce 1 turn of paralysis. Now, people will immediately say, this doesn't make sense for Uta. Uta already reduces paralysis as a captain. And while that is true, you can still use this either to get a matching slot, or if Legend Uta is a crewmate on your team, she doesn't resist paralysis at that point. So it's still a usable support if Uta is your crewmate. And also, there is a new free-to-play Uta that's going to be coming out in this event as well. Currently, I don't know what she does, but this is going to be a support you can use on that free-to-play Uta as well. So I think even though the support seems a little bit bizarre in terms of the design of the Sugo Fest exclusive, it's still okay in my eyes. It's still usable. And then you've got his Rumble stuff, which gives Fighter and Cerebral some speed and blowaway %, which is pretty weird. And then also provides medium range, paralysis, 80% chance, and then target 3 enemies for high attack for miss %. Yeah, he's bad in Rumble. You're not using him in Rumble. That doesn't really matter. The thing is, he has a very good special and a usable support. So overall, Gordon is definitely my favorite of the rare recruits. I think that Sunny-kun has some uses too, which I really like. And then, you know, Bruno and Kobe are just kind of mid. But now we get the opportunity to talk about the Sugo Fest exclusives. So the first of these Sugo Fest exclusives is Beckman and Lucky Roux. Now, interestingly, you can see in the background that all of the other Shanks pirates or the red hair pirates are there, but this character only counts as Beckman and Lucky Roux, which is kind of bizarre. Yasop is not in the back either. Rockstar is in the back, so maybe it will be interesting if we put this character on a crew and see if Rockstar can be put on the crew as well. Like maybe it's one of those Frankie V2 kind of things. We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, this character is a quick shooter cerebral, and for the first time in One Piece Treasure Cruise, we have a super class shooter character. Thank the Lord, we finally have our first one. We'll talk about all of that in just a moment. Let's start with the captain ability. So, -2 cooldown at the start of the quest, providing quick and shooter characters with 1.2 health and 5.25 attack when you have a matching slot. Otherwise, it's just a 5 times boost to those classes and colors. And then for any character on the crew with a barrier pierce potential ability and meets the requirements for that barrier penetration to activate, what it says is if that character lands a perfect, reduces threshold, damage reduction, and defense up by 1 turn. Okay, so this is the first character in the game that has had anything to do with potential abilities in their captain. This is just really weird. To really dumb it down for you guys, to really understand at a core level what this is, it's essentially saying, does your character have barrier penetration? Yes or no? If it does the barrier penetration activate during this point? Yes or no? If it does activate and you hit a perfect, reduce all 3 of those defensive effects by 1 turn. That is so cool, dude. And especially because Sugo Fest exclusives in particular that have barrier penetration, they're always able to activate no matter what. So essentially what this means is that if this character is your captain and you have other barrier penetration units, every time you land a perfect with those units, you're reducing threshold, rainbow shield, and blue shield by 1 turn. You can have literally 6 characters, hit perfects with all of them, and then just remove 6 turns of those defensive effects. And this also means, like, hypothetically, if you're in a situation where the enemy has like 6 turns of threshold, you can have a 5-turn remover, hit a perfect with 1 unit during the normal attack combat chain, and then you're removing it during your attacks. That's so unique, and we haven't seen stuff like that before. This is the type of stuff that we like to see. Super unique abilities that may or may not see play, but I actually really like that they're going down this route. So captain ability aside, remember when you do use him as a captain, you get access to his superclass effect. The superclass effect activates when you have 5 or more shooters on your crew, so it can be a little bit difficult to activate. Even though he's a quick unit and a quick captain, you're probably wanting to build him around the shooter class. Now he does reduce threshold, rainbow shield, and blue shield by 2 turns when you activate it, and gives your shooter characters 2 times attack for 2 turns, and then your shooters become super shooters. So it's a pretty good effect actually. I mean, utility and damage, not really too much more to ask. And if you have double Beckman and Lucky Roux, you can remove 4 turns of those effects, which is actually pretty cool too. So yeah, this character just does not like those defensive effects, which I like. I like that this character is built around that. So if you need to get around these annoying defensive effects, yeah, you can use all of these really weird and wacky specials to do so, or just say stuff it. I'm just going to use a shooter team and use shooters and Beckman and Lucky Roux just to get through all these defensive effects. I think that's super unique. Then we've got the special ability. Now the special ability isn't really too hard to understand. It will be a quick and shooter or boost, 2.25 for 3 turns, and a chain boundary effect, 2.75 for 3 turns. But then it says, if you already have an orb boost, you buff it by 0.3. If you already have a chain lock, you buff it by 0.25. Meaning that if you have double Beckman and Lucky Roux, you can have a 2.55 orb boost and a 3 times chain boundary for 3 turns. I like that. It's a little bit unique, but it also means that, you know, you can use this character in such a way where, you know, maybe you already have a humongous orb boost. Like, let's say you already have like a 3 times orb boost. You can still activate this special just to get the chain boundary effect. Or, you know, if you have already a really good chain boundary, you can use this special just to get the orb boost and then use the other effect to buff the chain, you know, lock or boundary part of your special. I like that. I like this character is a little bit less redundant. It can be used in a lot of different situations. But one thing about the special that I don't like is that that's all it does. It only provides damage increases, which it would have been interesting if this character had at least another piece of utility, like more defense effect removals would have been really cool. But, I mean, I digress. I think this character is still pretty solid overall. So, good captain, interesting superclass special, and then a pretty powerful special ability too. Remember, this is a normal legend. This is not a Super Sugo Fest unit, so keep that in mind. Also has slot bind reduction by 7, barrier penetration, and he has super tandem as well. We'll get to in just a moment. Boost the crew's base stats by 100 if your captain is a shooter, and reduces cooldown by 1 every time another shooter uses a special. Again, pretty awesome effect. They got a 13 cooldown. That's with Limit Break expansion, so it likely is going to be a 14 turn cooldown, which is pretty high. But of course, if you have other shooter characters on your team, you can get that cooldown pretty low, which is pretty good. This character does have a support effect to Shanks, Yasop, and Rockstar, so pretty interesting characters that they support there. And if you use a damage dealing or a health cut special, reduces Threshold, Rainbow Shield, Blue Shield by 1. Pretty good once again. Like, that's going to be used in a lot of circumstances. Though, I don't know how many Rockstar. I think the Psy Rockstar, I think he does damage. And you got Yasop. I don't know how many Yasops do damage. And you got Shanks, and, you know, you got a couple of Shanks that can do damage. So that's pretty cool. So, support effect is very good. So, the Super Tandem ability, at max potential, if you get it max, it says when you have any one of the following characters, Shanks, Yasop, Rockstar, and Usopp also counts for this, which is pretty good considering this character is focused around the shooter class. So when you use the effect, it reduces Threshold, Rainbow Shield, Blue Shield by 1, and a 2 times tandem attack boost to quicken shooter for 1 turn. I like that. Pretty good. The level 1 ability though, you need 2 of the characters, Shanks, Yasop, Rockstar, Usopp, but then when you level it up, it will reduce the requirement. When 1 or more shooter characters plus any one of the following are on the crew, so that makes it a little bit easier to build for. And then at level 5, you just need 1 of the characters. So this Super Tandem ability activates only with 2 characters tapping. Like, that's incredibly busted. That's very, very good. I like it. I think this character is pretty strong. Very unique, though. Very unique. I don't think this character is going to see a whole lot of play, but people are going to be able to build some really weird and wacky teams with it, and that's what I like. I like that this character can just breed creativity with these really weird and wacky abilities. I like it, man. We need to talk about their Pyro Rumble stuff as well, so no surprise here that they're boosting shooters. Attack buff by 8 and defense by 5. It's pretty good. And then their special 31 CT targets a single target for 0.7 times their attack, up to 6 times, and then targets shooter teammates for speed level 6, crit level 6 for 20 seconds. So this is obviously going to work very well with the PvP rare recruit Usopp that we got in the previous month. That character is actually very good for shooters, and you can build a pretty good core with this character, that Usopp. I'm not too sure how many shooters off the top of my head would actually be good with this. Maybe Stronghold Ace, maybe V2 Lucci, you know, maybe Legend Frankie. I don't know. The shooters aren't really the best. Definitely Kizaru, Borsalino would be very good here too. So yeah, there are a couple of good characters you can use to build a decent core of shooters right now. 0.7 times their attack is a bit weak. It does occur 6 times though, and I don't know if it's a random enemy or he just targets the closest enemy, I suppose, up to 6 times. So yeah, they can hit pretty hard overall when you account for everything. So anyways, that's the breakdown of the Beckman and Lucky Roux. Definitely let me know down below in the comment section about all that. But we have yet another character to talk about, man. We got to talk about the new Shanks. So here is the Super Sugo Fest exclusive red-haired Shanks. Now, the thing about Shanks is that when I initially read this with my girlfriend Karissa, we read through all the abilities, and we were very underwhelmed. We didn't know, like, this character was just bad. I don't understand the design. And then we looked at his super type, and his super type may be one of the most broken mechanics we have seen. So we'll talk about the super type at the very end. I just want to see your guys' reactions and opinions to everything before that point, because everything changes when you read his super type. So we'll have a look here. He's a quick cerebral free spirit, and he is a quick super type unit. So You want to build mono quick with this guy, which makes sense with his kit. We'll talk about that. Captain ability. Boosts non-quick attack by 4x, and then boosts quick character's attack by 5x. Okay? 1.5 times health. Boosts the color affinity of quick units by 1.1, so inbuilt color affinity, meaning that your quick units with type advantage will do 5.5 times damage, which is very, very strong. 10% damage reduction, and then also makes quick recovery in tandem slots matching, and slightly boosts the chances of landing quick in tandem slots. So with double Shanks, you get a pretty good chance of landing quick in tandem. They're treated as beneficial, more matching slots, you love to see it. Tandem slots as well make sense because he is a super tandem character. Pretty cool. So the special ability, 13 turns, it's a lot to digest here, but we'll break it down. 10% damage that goes through everything, changes the left column slots including block into quick, and then changes right column slots including block into tandem. So he generates tandem for you, which is great, so you can activate his super tandem ability. He also will boost the chain multiplier by 1.4 for 1 turn. Okay, pretty self-explanatory thus far. He goes on to say that if you have 5 or more quick characters on the crew, he boosts the color affinity of your quick units by 2.75 times for 1 turn. However, if you don't have 5 quick characters on your crew, it's still providing a 2.25 times color affinity boost instead. So 2.75 color affinity is currently the highest in the game. I believe the previous highest as well was the waifus, Hancock, Nami, Robin for Striker and Free Spirit, I think it was. Yeah, so this character provides the same level of color affinity, but only for quick units. So a little bit of give and take there. This character says that if the crew already has a chain boost, an additive chain boost when you launch the special, and you also have color affinity when you launch the special, he's going to reduce enemies' rainbow shield and threshold by 7 turns. That's very, very strong. And then further increases the chain multiplier boost by 0.5. So he does a lot, right, so far. So he does huge chain boost, 1.4 and a 2.75 times color affinity. But then he says if you already have both of those buffs active, he removes 7 turns of Rainbow Shield and Threshold, and then also buffs that chain boost that you already have from going from 1.4 to a 1.9. So I believe this is the current highest chain multiplier boost, additive chain multiplier boost in the game. It's a very strong effect. So when you take into account his captain ability and his special ability, you really need to have some type of other attack and orb boosting effect. Obviously, the Beckman and Lucky Roux can provide you with a pretty substantial orb boosting effect, and they provide chain boundary. So Beckman and Lucky Roux provide chain boundary, orb boost. You've got this guy providing chain boost. So chain boost and chain boundary, great combination there. He also provides color affinity boost, and you can get a very good attack boost via Uta if you want to do something like that as well, because this character is a cerebral unit at the end of the day, so you can still run Uta alongside this Shanks if you wanted to do that. So overall, it's pretty strong. And once again, this character does have barrier penetration too, which is pretty nice. And then also has the pinch healing, right? If this character is a crewmate, I don't know why you'd use this character as a crewmate when you have a look at that super type, but you'll see it in just a moment. But it's nothing too crazy, you know, strength slots matching, nothing crazy. Tandem ability, he does have a super tandem that says that when you have one of the following characters, Luffy, Beckman, Lucky Roux, Yasop, Rockstar, Uta, 2.5 times attack, tandem attack boost to quick units, and then type slots are matching for 1 turn. It's pretty strong. He makes recovery matching, right? Yeah, so tandem and recovery already matching, makes type slots matching with the super tandem, so all natural slots will be matching if you have the level 5 super tandem. You can already see, he just does a lot of damage, right? But the big thing that, at this point, you would wonder, he's only really boosting quick, so he's only going to be good versus strength units. That was the issue that I kind of saw right now. But then you've got his super type effect, which is just nuts. So, in order to activate it, you need a Luffy, Beckman, Lucky Roux, Yasop, Rockstar, or Uta. So you do need to run very specific units in order to get it to activate. Though if you're running a quick team against content, you've got the final tap Luffy quick unit, who's going to be a pretty awesome addition to the team. The ability further increases color affinity by 0.25, making his color affinity go from 2.75 to a 3 times boost. And he makes enemies into strength type for 1 turn. Cannot change a super type enemy. So that is unfortunate. You can't change a super type enemy, but you can make enemies into strength type for 1 turn. So yeah, that's kind of insane. this is the first character in the game that has been able to change the typing of an enemy. That is bizarre, dude. And this just means that, yeah, you're building mono quick, and in a lot of circumstances, that's not very good, because you're only good against strength. Well, luckily, they kind of amend that by giving him the ability to turn the enemies into a strength type. Now, it is a little bit of a downside that he doesn't change super type enemies, but that's still an insane mechanic that he gets access to. So that is where he kind of comes into it, is that, yeah, he's going to be a unit you can run mono quick with, he's going to hit very, very hard, but you can just turn them into strength units, so you're always going to have that type advantage. And that was one of the things as well as reading, it just didn't make sense. He needed some type of way to get type advantage, otherwise the color affinity and mono quick, it just didn't make sense. So that does make sense. But yeah, not being able to change super type enemies is a pretty big drawback though, because if you think of some of the content, like some of the GARP challenges, for example, some of the later ones become super type, like Super Boss Kizuna's become super type, so unfortunately you can't really use him in that sense, but still in a lot of content out there, he is going to be a pretty good asset for allowing you to just destroy them with massive quick damage. So that's the breakdown of old mate Shanks. He seems pretty good. Then you've got his support effect, attaching to the same units that are required for his super type. And it says if they use a special boost color affinity of quick by 1.75, it's a pretty good support effect and will likely see play in a lot of circumstances. There aren't that many color affinity supports, I think, at 1.75. This might be one of the first color affinity supports to reach 1.75. That's impressive in and of itself. Then you've got his rumble abilities and his awesome looking sprite. So in Rumble, he's going to be a Cerebral focus unit, which is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more buffs to Cerebral. So he gives level 6 health, level 6 speed, level 6 attack. Very good buffs across the board there. And then a 35 cooldown special, which is pretty high. He says, targets the team for 100% chance to remove stat reducing effects. So I believe that includes half stats, attack down effects, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. He just removes stat reducing effects. I like that. It's a unique ability. He also targets Cerebral teammates for speed 6, attack 6 for 15 seconds, and then targets enemies in a large horizontal range for 2.8 times his attacker's damage. So he is good, and he's going to work very well in Rumble with Uta, but one of the big issues that the Cerebral team currently was facing is they don't have a lot of characters that can output serious damage. And while this character can do that, I think that they needed a little bit more, considering he only does horizontal large range. That has a very high chance of whiffing. It's one of the worst ranges you can have, being horizontal. If it was just a straight up large range, would be honestly pretty busted. He does give pretty good stat buffs to Cerebral, and Cerebral already have really good ways to enhance their attack quite high. With Uta, Chopper can do it, Carrot and Wanda I believe do it as well, so there's lots of good ways to get very high stats with Cerebral. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, yeah, he's probably going to do a lot of damage, but I just think that they needed a little bit more helping hand in terms of the amount of damage that they were dealing to the enemy. But that is the breakdown of Shanks and the Beckman and Lucky Roux character. Interesting that no Yasop was attached to that unit, but I guess it makes it a little bit easier for team building. If they're probably going to release another Yasop and stuff like that later on down the line, probably another Usopp. I'm just very interested to see, you know, are we actually going to get like an official current day red-haired Shanks for the Film Red celebration? Because while this character has some really cool abilities, I would really still love to see current day redhead Shanks as a character in the Film Red celebration event. But with all of that, that is going to wrap it up here. A very, very long video, so I thank you so much for being here. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.